recording. या audio भी आप करें होना जा ये mute करें अन्य बुद्धन में mute वाला. Yes, now we are starting. Today we will discuss the bariatric surgery for the obesity and the pulmonary cyst, particularly the pulmonary Herodes cyst. So, bariatric surgery is defined as a branch of surgery that manipulates the stomach or small intestine, sometimes both stomach and small intestine, to achieve the weight loss. The other surgical treatment of obesity like liposuction, lipectomy, wiring of the jaws, these are not included in the bariatric surgery. So bariatric surgery is that surgery that only manipulates the stomach and the small intestine to achieve the weight loss. This is a curiosity in the world that some countries there's a lack of the nutrition, the peoples are malnourished. But in certain affluent countries, obesity is a plague for them. The overweight is norm in the most of the Western and resource-rich countries. Two-thirds of the adults in these countries are overweight or obese. Obesity is a global public health problem. It is rising at an alarming rate in the developed countries. The prevalence of obesity in the United States is a 50%. In other European countries, it is a 15 to 20%. So, United States has a highest number of the obese persons. Why obesity occurs? This is a chronic multifactorial disease that may be related to the genetics and the environmental factors. Obesity has an association of many diseases. What is the risk of obesity? That is association with the many diseases. It increases the risk of the cancers. The quality of life is affected. It also reduces the life expectancy by the 5 to 20 years as compared to the normal non-obese person. So obese person die earlier than the normal persons. The obesity related problems are the cardiovascular disease like the ischemic heart diseases, hypertension. These are more common in the obese person. The type 2 diabetes, which is more common in the obese person, hypertension, sometimes sleep apnea due to the obese distended abdomen. There's the pressure over the diaphragm, so the diaphragm is elevated, so they have a loss of the and the slowness of the respirations is associated with the sleep apnea. It is also related to the dyslipidemia, that is the cause of the atherosclerosis, leading to the narrowing of arteries, leading to the coronary ischemic diseases, peripheral ischemic diseases, strokes. They are more common. Again, due to the obesity, there is the relaxation of the gastroesophageal sphincter, leading to the gastroesophageal reflux disease. So they also complain of the heartburn due to the weight over the joints, particularly knee and the ankle joints. They have osteoarthritis of this due to the obesity, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolic syndrome. They are more common in the obese person. Obese persons are much more prone to develop the incontinence. They have a problem with the lower extremities. They are prone to develop a hypercoagulant state. Certain malignant tumors has an association with the obesity. These are the breast, the uterus, the colon. Due to the obesity, the patient remains confined to the home, super obese person, so they suffer from the psychological problem, that is a depression. Obesity is classified. The degrees of obesities are according to the body mass index. How body mass index is calculated? Here we weight in the kilogram is divided by square of the height in the meters. So this BMI is divided is equal to the weight in kgs divided by height in the meter squares. The result will tell us the degree of the obesity. Now this is a chart which shows that uh, if the BMI is from 18.5 to 24.9, less than 25, it is a healthy normal weight. If it is from 25 to 29.9, so it is overweight. Class 1 obesity is 30 to 34.9. Class 2 obesity is 35 to 39.9. Class 3 obesity is 40 or more BMI. Super obesity or the morbid obesities are those persons which have a BMI more than 50. Here this chart shows the patient who are less than 8.49, they are underweight, and other is the same. The class 4 is more than 50, they are super obese or the morbid obese patient. How obesity can be managed? This needs a multidisciplinary team. The team of the endocrinologist, the team of the diabetologist, the dietitians, psychiatrist, the respiratory physicians, the surgeon that is doing the surgery, that is the bariatric surgeons. You have a good anesthetic persons because the anesthesia fitness and anesthesia is necessary for performing these surgeries. The management of obesity could be non-surgical management, which includes the dieting, increase in the energy expenditure through exercise, regular exercise. By increasing the energy expenditure, it causes the reduction in the weight loss. So you have to change in the behavior of eating, then certain pharmacotherapies. These are the dealt in the medical books. So we will go to the surgical options. The drawback of non-surgical management is that if you uh, leave this management, if you don't take this regime, then 90% of the obese patient they regain the weight within 2 years. So this is one of the drawback of the medical treatment, non-surgical treatment. So, bariatric surgery has advantages because it causes the substantial weight loss. The weight loss is sustained. The results are long term. They sometimes, if this surgery cures the associated disease like hypertension and diabetes, too, it increases the life expectancy. It increases the quality of the life. The patient feels psychologically well-being. Not all obese patients are submitted to surgery. There are certain indications for the bariatric surgery. First indication is that the BMI, that the body mass index, must be more than 40 kg per meter square, or if BMI is less than 35, but patient has a major obesity related problems like diabetes, hypertension, and cardiac patient, then they can be offered a bariatric surgery. When there is a failure of the non-surgical measures, you must exclude the secondary causes of obesity, and their patient must be in a fit enough to sustain the trauma of surgery and the anesthesia, and patients should be committed to long-term follow-up because there are the complications of this bariatric surgery. So patients should be committed to the long-term follow-up care. So these patients should be submitted for the surgery. If their patient is non-cooperative, patient is unfit, then these patients are not suitable for the bariatric surgery. What are surgical options for the treatment of the obesity? There are two types of operation. One is the gastric restrictive operation. As we know, the stomach, after swallowing the food enters into the stomach where it is being stored, and by churning action of the stomach, it is converted into the chyme, which is being propelled into through the duodenum into the small intestine where it is absorbed. Now there should be a surgery that the capacity of the stomach is reduced. That is known as a gastric restrictive operations. As we know, when food enters into the small intestine, it gets absorbed. Most of the nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine. If we bypass the small intestine, so absorption will not occur. So there will be a malabsorption. So the other category of operation is a malabsorptive operation. So the nutrients are diverted from the absorption through a shortcut. Sometimes both type of surgeries can be done, restrictive as well as the malabsorptive in the same patient. And these both type of surgeries can be done by open method as well as by the laparoscopic methods. So what are the restrictive gastric procedures? There are two restrictive gastric procedures. These are the adjustable gastric band and other is the sleeve gastrectomy. Both can be laparoscopic or the open. So sleeve gastrectomy and the adjustive gastric band. So we will discuss the adjustive gastric band. So object of this applying the adjustive gastric band is that to reduce the food intake. Definitely the stomach will be small, patient will take a less food. And by taking the less food, patient will feel the early satiety. So इसकी भूख खत्म हो जाएगी. And it will prevent the overeating. So overall result is that the daily caloric intake will be reduced. So this, by decreasing the caloric intake, patient will lose the weight. The adjustable gastric banding is a purely restrictive operation. What is done? Here is the prosthetic ring, which is inflatable, is put just below the gastroesophageal junction to create a small proximal gastric pouch. So this gastric band can be adjustable by postoperative by patient by injecting or removing the fluid from the band via subcutaneous injection port. There is the subcutaneous injection port, which is over the body. So patient can inject or remove the fluid from the bed if it wants the relaxation. So average weight loss achieved by this operation is approximately 50 to 60% of the excess of the body weight. It is not 60% of total body weight, it is excess. If you do the minus of the normal body weight, then remaining excess weight up to 50 to 60% is lost by this operation. But this operation is not free from the complications. So what happened with the time? The proximal gastric pouch, which was a small one, it dilates. So amount of food is more needed. Band can slip. So there will be loss of function. Band can erode into the stomach, leading to perforation. Band can be infected because it is a foreign body. Sometimes patient cannot tolerate because there is a rapid filling of the stomach. So there will be the regurgitations. So it will not be tolerated by the patient. So it is one of the indication for the removal of the gastric band. As this has a subcutaneous port for injecting and the this gastric band, this may be infected. So subcutaneous port complication can happen. You see here, this is the stomach. This is the stomach, which is being surrounded by adjustable gastric band. This is a tubing, which is attached to the subcutaneous port. This through this port, patient inflates and deflates the gastric band in order to take the food. The proximal stomach contains a less food, which is being diverted through that. Here you see, this is a stomach with adjustable band. The proximal segment dilates, and this is the ports through which the patient inflates and deflates the gastric band. This can be performed laparoscopically. You see, this is umbilical port. Laparoscope is here. The gastric band has been applied, and port is being inserted into subcutaneous tissue. And there is a sleeve gastrectomy, which is also restrictive operation. It is used in super obese or morbid obese persons when BMI is more than 50. What is done? Here we restrict the gastric greater curvature of the stomach. It is technically easier than the malabsorption procedures. It avoids the complication of the prosthesis as in the gastric band operations. It avoids the malabsorption complications such as the dumping syndrome, the loss of the vitamins. So it avoids these things. So sleeve gastrectomy is the commonest operation now being performed for the obesity. You see here the stomach, the greater curvature of the stomach is being resected by this stapling gun, which staples the stomach, and this only the portion, small portion of the stomach is left behind, and the contents are going from the stomach through the duodenum to be absorbed into the small intestine. Here is another picture. You see this portion is removed or excised. The remaining portion is being in continuous with the gastrointestinal tract. This is a sleeve gastrectomy that could be performed by a laparoscopic way. You can perform by open way, but nowadays it is a laparoscopic sleeve gastrectomy is the commonest operation, which is technically easier and associated with the least complication than the malabsorptive operations. See, the sleeve gastrectomy has been done. Another picture. Though, as it is a surgical operation, it has some inherent complication. Sometimes the gastric fistula, the leakage from the gastric staple line occur. There could be a bleeding. The tube may get narrow, that is known as the gastric tube structure, leading to the vomiting. So loss of electrolytes. These problems do occur with the sleeve gastrectomy, but they are less than the adjustable gastric band operation. Now there are the combined restrictive and malabsorption procedure. That is, we bypass the stomach, another the bilio-pancreatic diversion with the duodenal switch. So, gastric bypass operation can be done by open or the laparoscopic method. It produces the restriction of the food intake by creating the small gastric pouch. Here, they actually staple the stomach. There is a small gastric pouch, and the malabsorption is created by bypassing the duodenum and the proximal jejunum. So after dividing the stomach, the distal jejunum is connected to the gastric pouch. Food will travel from pouch through a rulum by passing the gastric remnant, the duodenum and the proximal jejunum, because the duodenum and the proximal jejunum, particularly jejunum, is a site where the food is being mixed with the biliary secretions, pancreatic secretions, and succus enterus. Here, this is bypassed, so there will be a malabsorption of the nutrients. So Another limb, that is the base of the root limb, is reconnected to the remaining portion of small intestine, forming a Y shape. So there is a reduction of the absorption of vitamins, minerals. Gastric bypass is a major surgery. This is a permanent changes to the digestive system. So laparoscopic gastric bypass, the has a complications like this leak. Anastomosis can leak. There could be an internal herniation. Patients suffer from the pernicious anemia because the stomach is bypassed. It can lead to the not secretion of the intrinsic factor. Here you see the stomach is being divided and staple. There's only small portion of the stomach which is joined with the limb. This limb is known as a Rubai limb. This limb is not containing the enzymes, not containing the biliary enzyme, hepatic enzymes, pancreatic enzymes. So it is being bypassed. The, another continuous limb, base of the limb is joined with the common remaining small intestine here. This is only small portion of the intestine where the nutrients are being absorbed. So these nutrients are bypassed from the absorption. So the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. So another is the bilio-pancreatic diversion with the duodenal switch. It is mainly malabsorption as restrictive procedure. It consists of first do the sleeve gastrectomy and to reduce the absorption of the intestine, biliary and pancreatic juices with the food mix with the food in the distal small intestine known as a common segment. The length of this common segment is usually 50 to the 100 centimeters. Here you see stomach is being sleeve gastrectomy has been done. The duodenum has been closed. This actually joins with the distal small intestine, that is the ileum, and this portion is joined with the stomach. So here is the diversion of the biliopancreatic secretions. Here sleeve gastrectomy has been done. The stomach food goes to the Roux-en-Y loop without the enzymes, and the pancreatic juices come through this loop, and they join at the common limb, which is up to 50 to 100 centimeters. This is the less length for the absorption. So there is a malabsorption and patient loses the weight because nutrients are not being absorbed. So it leads to the weight reduction. This is another picture showing this sleeve gastrectomy. The stomach is being joined here without pancreatic juices. These pancreatic juices join on the terminal ileum. This is another picture showing same thing. So now we will go to the pulmonary cyst. The lung cyst could be divided by epithelial cyst, emphysematous cyst, paracystic or the headed cyst of the lung, the pseudocyst of the lung. So we will briefly discuss other cysts. Only the parasitic cyst, the headed cyst of the lung, will be discussed in detail. Epithelial cysts, they are developmental in origin. They can be large, single, small, or multiple. These are lined by a respiratory epithelium. They are often associated with the cervical rib or cardiac anomalies. It is common in infant and children. The clinical features of epithelial cysts is that they can present with the difficulty in breathing, dyspnea, chest pain. If there is infection in the cyst, the patient can present with the fever, cough, and the hemoptysis, that's the bloody sputum. The treatment of epithelial cyst is the excision by the wets or the open thoracotomy. If there is infection, antibiotics are used to treat the infection. Emphysema cyst, it is a progressive disease of the lung, which rupture of the alveolar wall and distension with the air. It is an acquired condition. Cyst does not have epithelial lining. They can compress the adjacent lung tissue, leads to the poor gaseous exchange. They present with the dyspnea, sometimes persistent and severe cough. The pseudocyst of the lung, means pseudo means it's not true cyst. It can occur in a cavity, pulmonary cavity due to the tuberculosis, the lung abscesses, sometimes the staphylococcus pneumonia leading to the necrotizing type of the pneumonia. The complication of this pseudocyst is that they can produce the spontaneous pneumothorax. Sometimes they are the can produce the chronic severe bronchitis. The treatment, if cyst is localized, that is exercise, they can be removed. Generalized cysts are treated conservatively. Sometimes the pleurodesis is often required. The pulmonary head cyst. Now, this is a very important topic that you should know. The head cyst can occur in the liver and the lungs. Another organ also, but common site are those two, the liver and the lung. What is the life cycle? Because it is a parasitic disease, how it causes this disease? The head cyst has a two form, adult and the larva. Adult is a short-lived flatworm that lives in the primary host. The primary host of this Echinococcus gallimimus is the dog. The organism is the Echinococcus gallimimus. It lives in small bowel of the dog. It has a 3 to 5 segment. The last segment is a gravid segment, contains the ova, which are shed in the feces of the dog. These ova are very resistant to the drying and remain viable for the weeks. The grazing animals like the sheep or cattle swallow the ova, which contaminate the grass. The outer coating of the ovum is digested by the digestive system of the animal, then allowing an embryo to hatch in the small intestine of the sheep. These embryos can penetrate the wall of the intestine, can enter into the portal circulation, and they lodge in the liver, which is the first filter. Well, through the portal circulation, they enter into the liver and they lodge in the liver because this is the first filter. From the liver, they can go to the lungs, particularly on the right side of the lung. So they, through the, because through the liver, the portal, the hepatic vein drains into the inferior vena cava, which opens into the right atrium, the right ventricle, then can go into the through the pulmonary arteries to the lungs. This is known as the second filter. If the escape from the lung, these embryos can enter into the systemic circulation. They can lodge in anywhere in the body. So life cycle is completed when dog eats the contaminated. When it reaches the liver, this produces a cyst. Animal is slaughtered. When animal is slaughtered, a sheep is slaughtered, the liver containing the headed cyst is thrown. This is eaten by a dog. So this completes the life cycle. So life cycle is completed in two hosts, primary host and the secondary host. Human is the usually disease contracts disease by during the childhood or adolescence. It is a very long disease. The infection usually occurs in the childhood or early adolescence and then can present into the adult life, 5 to 10 years. When ovas are swallowed after contact with infected dog, the person who is a dog keeper are eating a raw vegetables, salad, which are being contaminated by the dog feces. So they go into the small intestine where they go into the water circulation and enter into the liver, finally into the lungs. So they produces the head cyst. The man is the occasional intermediate force. It's not a common because uh, to complete the life cycle, the dog should have access to the liver of the man's liver. As the man dies, it is being buried or burned, so there is no access of the dog to the Man's awful, man's organ. Man is a dead end of the parasite. Here, parasite becomes dead. There is no further prospectus of the completing its life cycle. The reason is that because dogs has no access to the human viscera. So this is a picture which is showing how hereditary cyst is being. This is a dog which contains the adult worm. The adult worms are being excreted on the dog feces. These overa contaminated the grasses. The grasses is being eaten by the sheep. The sheep develops hereditary cyst in the liver and the lung. So when this liver or lung containing hereditary cyst is when sheep is slaughtered, the liver and the lung containing the hereditary cyst are swallowed by the dog, so the life cycle is being completed. Here, the human being is a bystander when he handles the dog or he eats the raw salad, raw vegetables which are unwashed. They are contaminated by the dog feces. Ultimately, the patient suffer from the first is the liver cyst, then is the lung cyst. So, lung is the second or commonest organ affected after the liver. Right lung and lower lobes are commonly involved. Cyst is usually single, can be multiple cysts, with concomitant cysts in the liver as well as the lung or other organs. Conditions may remain silent for many years, they found incidentally by investigation for other reasons. Pulmonary head cyst has a clinical features, sometimes cough with expectoration. It can present with hemoptysis. Fever can occur if cyst is infected. Patient can present with the chest pain. The emergency presentation can be a rupture leading to the allergic reaction or anaphylaxis. Rupture into the bronchial tree causes the expectoration of fluid and grape-like skins. These are the headed membranes which are being expectorated. This is the emergency presentation. How will you investigate? There are two things that should be investigated. One is that one should investigate that patient is suffering from the Echinococcus granulosa infection. Second is that the location of the cyst. For the location, we use the radiology. For the investigation that patient is suffering from the hereditary disease, first thing is it is a parasitic disease. There is a raised eosinophilic count, serological test, that the complement fixation test, and ELISA will show that the patient has, they show the antibodies, the patient has a infection, hereditary infection. Where this infection is that, then we read a chest X-ray which reveals the cystic lesion and ultrasound of the liver, because liver is the primary site, is a common site to exclude the concomitant hereditary infestation. CT scan of the chest and abdomen, they show the smooth space occupying lesion with several septa. You see this is the rounded mass on the right side of the lung. You see this could be the smooth rounded cystic lesion. X-ray chest can present this way. This is another lesion. You can see here, hereditary cyst. Another sign with the is known as the uh, rounded meniscus sign or the crescent sign. What happens when cyst enlarge? It erodes the bronchi. So when there is erosion of the bronchioles, air is being introduced between the pericyst wall and laminated membrane, gives like a fine radiological crescent sign, or this is known as the meniscus sign or crescent sign. See, this is the X-ray. The air has been trapped. This is the cyst, which is showing the crescent or the meniscus sign. Complications of the pulmonary hereditary cyst can rupture, can lead to the anaphylaxis, it can be infected, If large one, it can collapse the ipsilateral lung. Sometimes they rupture into the pleural space, leading to pleural effusion. It may be associated with the pulmonary pleural head formation. Sometimes this cyst erodes the diaphragm and the erodes the liver, produces the hepatobronchial fistula formation, produces the biliary sputum. The sputum is being uh, contaminated with the bile. This is a rare complication. The treatment is that mostly it is surgical. It is known as the thoracotomy and the enucleation of the cyst. Sometimes cyst is small one containing a one lobe. One can do the lobectomy. These drugs can be given for a longer time to avoid the recurrence. These are the albendazole and the traziquantelol. These are the two drugs. This is the headed daughter cyst. They are removed at the surgery. Thanks. So, attendance वगैरह जो बताइए थोड़ा